Dakar Rally is back. The world's toughest rally has a new home. 9,000 kilometers across the barren wastes of Argentina and Chile. The Dakar Rally starts the 2nd of January. Exclusive to Supersport. Sponsored by Total. You know where to turn.
From ABSA, going the extra mile to get you financed.
The African Ivory route may have run through Polokwane, but the 66 teams that lined up for round 6 of the ABSA Off-Road Championship were looking for gold instead. Limpopo's unique dry deciduous forests, challenging landform and hot weather made it the ideal place to test vehicles and their occupants for the next round of the National Off-Road Battle in the SP, D and E classes. The race, scheduled for 400 k's, took in fast flat roads with a whole host of gullies, washouts, thick riverbed sand, and then the typical bushveld with its thorn trees, which limits visibility severely at times, straining car and driver. Nissan's Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford were setting the pace in defence of their national championship crown, but were only 8 points ahead of the veteran crew, Neil Woolridge and Kenny Shorthammer in their Ford Ranger. While Cronje and Birkin were more than desperate to add a second win to their victory tally for the year 2008, but the victors in the Eastern Cape in April had their work cut out for them. Foss, though, after his bad break in the Northwest Province, went to work with a vengeance and looked like he had the bit between his teeth. The Limpopo dust, though, was a massive hurdle to overcome. Visibility was limited at times, especially if you got stuck behind slower traffic, and the resultant grit, which gets into parts that, when they get worn, are damaged due to the excessive grinding. The Unifreight Ford of Van Tonder and Guapo was again steady as she goes and moved into 10th place. At the midway point of the Limpopo 400, the sun had finally crept out, but rather mercilessly there was no wind to speak of, so the dust was billowing and just hanging around. The locals came out in their droves to see South Africa's finest exponents of off-road driving tackle the best that their province could throw at the drivers and navigators, and they certainly got their money's worth. The Zomatans followed up on their only second place of the season at Sun City by striding to a confident win again here in the Limpopo province. In fact, they were a huge 13 minutes ahead. And that was on this crew, Dalmas Kappel, Ramon and Moret Besaidnout in their Toyota Hilux. That left Kutsiela Viskachny and Johan Gerber in 3rd place and gave the Roby Nissan pairing a much-needed points gap at the top of the Class D battle. A nice position to be in. But to be fair, this battle was far from over. In Class E, the 4x4 Mega World entry with Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer at the top of their game for their first win stole the points away from Fran Bedard and Visser, who were deeply locked into combat for the national championship. Perhaps a matter of 2 dogs and the 3rd escapes with a bone. But up front, the checkered flag waited for the Nissan. After just 6 hours, it was win number 25 for Grobler, and for Nissan, an unprecedented 49th victory in 62 races since 01.
We're very pleased at the moment. We don't exactly know where the other guys are. We arrived here first, and we'll just see in the next few minutes what time the other guys are going to be in. But yeah, we'll see.
And they did. A second win for Grobler, closing the gap on the top of the points log on the rest of the contenders, while the Ford team again got a podium, their 6th in a row. Only 6 points separated the top 3 drivers, and the Zomatans in the red Class D hardbody had a 15-point cushion, while Visser and Joks Leroux had a tight hold on the Class E championship race. 2 races to go and a tough route, several national championships still up for grabs, fired up drivers and crews, and a new innovative spectator area just 10 kilometers from the finish. That's what the 08 Toyota Dealer 400 in Leidenburg and Mpumalanga offered. The 7th and penultimate round of the ABSA Off-Road Championship was to be more spectator-friendly than ever before, while teams were impressed with a route layout that boasted new roads, 50% of which they'd never turned a wheel in anger on before. Off-road enthusiasts were really entertained on these new sections too, and it again highlighted the tight racing that had been a hallmark of the whole season. Chief organizer Willie du Plessis of the South African Motor Club had a few nice and sometimes nasty surprises and ups and downs in store for the drivers and their faithful navigators, which included some really uncompromising terrain and very dry testing countryside, with the odd bit of mud thrown in after early summer rains. For Duncan Foss, the pressure was on. The defending national champion had a tough task ahead. This year, the severity and competitiveness in off-road racing was scintillating. And in the Production Vehicle Championship, the fans and teams expected a battle of epic proportions, and that's what they got. The old mining town nestles at the foothills of the infamous Long Tom Pass, and surrounded by Stenkampsberg and Nachsberg mountain ranges, the highest points in Mpumalanga, it was part of the challenge that the off-roaders took on too. Grobler, chasing a 5th national title, could ill afford another non-finish, like Ian Moore did at their own event, the Nissan Sugarbelt 400. Most of the championship contenders and their crews still had to drop one result from their season points total. The 4-time champ needed every single one available out there, and early on, the tough route claimed several victims. Swanepoel and Solomon again produced a drive worthy of praise in the IBM Cement entry, while the Zermattens were on their way to win number 4 of the season. After their non-finish in KZN, they've been on a great run. Even the co-drivers' championship reflected the high standard of competition. Kenny Scholthammer, who shares the cab of the Ford with Woolridge, led Nissan John Moore, who rides alongside the crafty Grobler, by a scant 2 points. It was all to play for, even for the navigators. And in Class E, Peckham and Santoro created some havoc as they charged to a win ahead of Visser and LaRue, although the Toyota lads were comfortably atop the championship log. With Thomas Rundle and Rob Howie taking another podium place in the dry, dusty conditions of Leidenburg. But the day belonged squarely to Grobler, a barnstorming drive bringing him right back into contention. A 3rd ABSA Off-Road Championship win in a row, and Woolridge and Scholthammer getting a 7th consecutive podium. The Zermattens had a championship clinching victory, assuring them of the title with 1 race to go, while Visser and LaRue clinched the Class E win in 10th place overall. They had a 21-point gap, title done and dusted. Woolridge, desperate for a win, pushed hard.
Look, we can't complain about that. We've had a good run. We pushed hard today, but we couldn't catch Hannes in the last bit. It was just too dusty. We get close, and then there was just too much dust, so we kind of settled for 2nd. Near the end, it just looked after the car and brought it back, but we've had a good day. We had a couple of little scares. We had a fuel pressure problem just before the service point, and it didn't slow us down, but there was definitely the car wasn't going like it should do, but otherwise a great run, no problems.
For the 8th and final race on the calendar, a brand new event, the RFS Magalies 400, made its appearance. It started and finished at the Tarleton International Raceway outside Krugersdorp and brought an entirely new feel to the 2008 season-ending finale. To top that, the overall championship was poised to be decided in the final race of the year. There was only 4 points that covered the top 3 contenders, and it had all come down to this, the last 400 Ks of racing in the last race of the season. That's after 3,500 Ks of really tough racing already all over Southern Africa. It was Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer in the Ford, leading from Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore in the one Nissan, and defending champions Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford in the other. It was gloves off in the home straight. Throw in Mark Grenier and his stablemate Anthony Taylor, who were both eager for a win, and throw in 1 or 2 more eager beavers, and it was clear the championship hunters needed to watch their P's and Q's. Teams such as the Barkhuisens had made massive strides in 08 and were ready to make one more onto the top step of the podium. And don't throw away the Sasol Nissan Navara team's Norwegian import Ivan Tollefson and his British co-driver Quinn Evans. They had yet to taste victory in South Africa and were ready to tantalize their taste buds. Newcomers to the SP class, the Malulan Toyota of brothers Johan and Werner Horn, acquitted themselves well and took 12th in the SP lineup, while Anthony Taylor, a national champion as a teenager, was growing in his role as Toyota's new hope. Manufacturers' National Title Championship chase, it was Toyota who were hoping for more great support from their privateers for the factory teams, while Nissan was holding thumbs for a clean sweep up at the top, which they'd already done once during the season. In Class D in the Ryobi Nissan, Henry and Maurice Zermatten had already made space for the silverware at home. They led by 35 points and had it all sewn up, but they were still looking for win number 5. And they were certainly not going to be handed the victory easily. Outgoing champion Weichelt and Els would make sure of that. The RFS Magalies Route 2 was a dusty affair, and one had to handle with care. The sponsors as Christian de Plooy and Henk Janse van Vuren in the RFS Toyota Hilux gave the crowd even more value, and they flew along. With the Huttings also in the thick of the dust and the Class E battle. They were chased home all the way by Malcolm Koch and Wayne Brink. Even at the death of the season, the lads were racing hard. Barton Tyre Services Rundle and Howie grabbed yet another podium, leaving them to look back on a very respectable season. But by now you knew it. There was yet another twist in the tale. Vos got it to the line first, but he won 4 races as compared to Grobler's 3, so Duncan effectively won the championship on a count-out on wins, 133 points apiece, and Vos got the nod due to 1 more race victory. The Zermattens clinched a very popular 5th win in the series, while Visser and LaRue brought it home in 4th place to secure a great Class E championship win. Vos was exhausted but pleased.
We had a great weekend, you know, we put it on pole, we led from the start, the vehicle category, and couldn't have gone better for us. It was really a great weekend.
You did have to overcome some disappointments early in the season, Duncan.
Yeah, you know, it's such a difficult sport, you know, you get punished for the slightest mistake, and the cars go through such hard terrain that you can't always expect to have a 100% finishing record, but no, we're ecstatic.
Grobler should also be lauded for a great comeback in the second part of the season, and hats off too to Woolridge and Schulthammer, who were never worse than 3rd and never better than 2nd. A fine season was had by all. The hotly contested Manufacturers Trophy, and Toyota triumphed with superb support from their privateers, stealing the title held by Nissan. Our season review of the 3 classes in the special vehicles comes your way after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA.